The planet had no proper name anymore. On old star maps it was marked as a trade colony, once green and busy. Now most people simply called it Sector Ash, because from orbit it looked like it had been burned and forgotten. Lieutenant Ethan Cole moved carefully through the broken streets, rifle raised, boots crunching over shattered glass and gray dust. The sky above was a dull orange, filled with smoke that never fully cleared. Tall alien buildings leaned at strange angles, their windows dark and empty. The air smelled of metal and something bitter. "This place gives me a bad feeling," one of the soldiers muttered over the comm. Ethan did not answer right away. He felt it too. He always did on worlds like this. "Stay sharp," he finally said. "We grab what survivors we can and get out. No hero moves." It was a standard human rescue sweep. Their small unit had been sent to check for civilians after reports of slaver activity. The galaxy was full of wars, and where wars passed, slavers followed. They took the weak, the young, and the unlucky. Ethan hated that part of the universe most of all. They moved between collapsed structures, scanning for movement. Every shadow looked like it could hide something dangerous. Alien creatures sometimes nested in ruins like these, and some were fast, very fast. A sudden burst of blaster fire echoed from the far end of the street. "Contact!" someone shouted. Ethan dropped behind cover as energy bolts flashed across the road. Shapes moved in the smoke, tall, thin figures with glowing eyes and crude armor. Slavers. The human squad returned fire. The noise was sharp and loud, bouncing off broken walls. One slaver fell, then another. The rest scattered, retreating deeper into the ruins. "Don't chase," Ethan ordered. "Our job isn't to hunt." The team regrouped, breathing hard. No one was hurt. That was a small win. "Area seems clear," the squad medic said. "For now." They were about to move on when Ethan heard it. It was faint, almost lost under the crackle of distant fires and the hum of damaged machinery. A sound that did not belong. He raised a hand. "Hold!" The squad froze. There it was again. A soft, broken cry. Ethan turned his head slowly, trying to locate it. The sound came from a half-collapsed building nearby. The entrance was blocked by fallen metal and stone. "Did you hear that?" he asked. A few soldiers nodded. One frowned. "Could be a trap." "Could be," Ethan said. Another cry echoed out, clearer this time. It was small, weak. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Lieutenant," the comm officer said carefully, "command wants us to keep moving. Slavers might regroup." Ethan stared at the dark gap between the rubble. "Cover me," he said. Before anyone could argue, he moved. He climbed over the debris, pushing aside bent metal with his gloved hands. Inside, the building was dim and unstable. The ceiling had partially collapsed, leaving jagged beams hanging overhead. "Ethan," someone warned quietly over the comm. "I know," he replied. 30 seconds." He followed the sound into what looked like a former living space. Broken furniture lay scattered across the floor. At the far end, under a slab of stone, something moved. Ethan approached slowly. It was a child. An alien child, small even by human standards. Her skin was a pale, soft blue dusted with ash. Large eyes stared back at him, wide with fear. One thin arm was pinned under the rubble, and her breathing was shallow and uneven. She looked at his weapon first, then at his face. Ethan lowered the rifle immediately and clipped it to his back. "It's okay," he said softly, even though he was not sure she understood his language. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child did not scream. She did not try to run. She only watched him closely, her gaze sharp despite her condition. That surprised him. Most children he had seen in war zones cried or froze in panic. This one looked alert. "I'm going to move this," Ethan said, placing his hands on the stone. "It'll hurt a little, but I need you to stay still." He lifted with all his strength. The slab shifted just enough. The child let out a quiet sound but did not pull away. Ethan freed her arm and quickly wrapped it with a basic field bandage. There were burns and cuts, but nothing immediately fatal. "Good," he murmured. "You're tough." The building shook suddenly. "Lieutenant," the comm officer said urgently, "multiple heat signatures incoming. Slavers are coming back." Ethan cursed under his breath. He gently picked the child up. She was lighter than he expected, too light. As he turned to leave, the child's small hands grabbed the front of his armor, holding on tightly. "I've got you," he said. The moment he stepped outside, blaster fire erupted again. "Move, move," someone shouted. Ethan ran, keeping his body between the child and the incoming fire. Energy bolts struck the ground around him, burning holes into the stone. One grazed his shoulder armor, sending a jolt through his arm. He did not slow down. The squad laid down covering fire, pushing back the slavers just long enough. Ethan dove behind a transport wreck as the ramp of their shuttle lowered. "Get in," the pilot yelled. Ethan jumped aboard, rolling across the deck with the child still in his arms. The ramp closed and the shuttle lifted off hard, engines screaming. The slavers below grew smaller as the ship rose into the smoky sky. Only when they were clear did Ethan finally exhale. The child was shaking now, but she had not let go of him. "You're safe," he said quietly. She looked up at him. Her eyes met his, steady and focused. Slowly, carefully, she placed one hand against his chest armor, right over his heart. She spoke a single word in her own language, soft, gentle. Ethan did not understand it, but something about the way she said it made his throat tighten. Back on the human ship, medics rushed to examine the child. She allowed them to work but kept turning her head, searching. When Ethan stepped back into the medical bay, her eyes locked onto him immediately. She reached out. "Easy," a medic said. "She's responsive but traumatized." Ethan moved closer. The child relaxed the moment she saw him. "She seems attached," another medic noted. Ethan gave a small, tired smile. "Guess she picked me." Scans showed she was malnourished and exhausted, but her biology was strong, surprisingly strong. Her recovery rate was faster than expected for a child pulled from rubble. "She's going to be fine," the medic said. Physically, Ethan nodded. "That's what matters." They set her up in a quiet recovery room. Ethan sat nearby, cleaning his armor. Every few minutes he glanced over at her. She was watching him, not like a scared child watches a stranger. Like someone studying something important. "What?" he asked softly. She tilted her head slightly as if considering him. Then she looked away, pretending to be tired. Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, I get that look from my officers too." Later, when most of the crew was asleep, alarms quietly sounded on the bridge. Unidentified ships were moving at the edge of sensor range. Far beyond the human vessel, hidden in the darkness between stars, advanced alien observers had already seen the rescue footage. They replayed it again and again. The moment the human picked her up, the moment she grabbed his armor, the moment she spoke that word. A senior alien advisor bowed his head slowly. "The princess has been found," he said. Another voice replied, tense and fearful, "and she is in human hands." Back on the human ship, Ethan sat beside the small alien child as she slept, unaware that the galaxy had just shifted. To him, she was not royalty. She was just a child he had refused to leave behind. The human ship moved quietly through open space, its engines set to low output. From the outside, it looked calm and ordinary, just another patrol vessel returning from a rescue sweep. Inside, however, something felt different. Even the crew could sense it, though most did not know why. Lieutenant Ethan Cole stood outside the medical room, arms crossed, watching through the clear panel. The alien child lay on the bed, wrapped in a soft thermal blanket. Her skin had regained some color and the monitors showed stable signs. She slept deeply now, but even in sleep, her brow was slightly tense, as if her mind never fully rested. "She's recovering faster than expected," the medic said beside him. "Her biology is unusual." "Unusual how?" Ethan asked. The medic hesitated. "Efficient, strong immune response. High neural activity for her age, not dangerous, just rare." Ethan nodded slowly. He had already noticed she was different, not in a way he could explain, but in small moments. The way she watched people, the way she listened even when she seemed tired, the way she never cried unless she was truly in pain. "When will she wake up?" he asked. "Soon," the medic replied. "But we need to decide where she goes after that." Ethan looked back at the child. "She stays here for now." The medic studied him, then nodded. "I figured you'd say that." When the child woke, it was quiet, no alarms, no panic. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the soft lights of the room. She did not move at first. She listened. The ship hummed around her. Air vents whispered. Somewhere far away, metal footsteps echoed. She turned her head and saw Ethan sitting nearby, leaning back in a chair, half asleep. His armor was off now. He looked smaller without it, less like a soldier, more like a tired man. She watched him for a long time, then she made a small sound. Ethan's eyes opened instantly. He looked at her, alert, then softened when he saw she was awake. "Hey," he said gently. "You're okay." She blinked, studying his face. Slowly she sat up, holding the blanket close to her chest. Her movements were careful, controlled. "You're on a ship," Ethan continued. "We're not on that planet anymore. You're safe." She did not respond with words. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, the same way she had before, as if measuring his honesty. After a moment, she extended her hand toward him. Ethan hesitated only a second before stepping closer. He knelt beside the bed so he would not tower over her. "It's okay," he said. "I'm here." Her fingers touched his sleeve, then curled around it, gripping lightly. She let out a slow breath, like someone releasing a held tension. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. From that moment on, she refused to let him out of her sight for long. She followed him through the ship, quiet and observant. Crew members stared at first, then smiled. Some waved, some crouched down to her level. She watched them all with careful eyes. "What's her name?" one of the engineers asked. Ethan glanced down at the child. "I don't know." The engineer raised an eyebrow. "She hasn't told you." "She hasn't told anyone," Ethan said. The child looked up at him, then away. "Well," the engineer said, smiling, "she seems to like you." Ethan snorted softly. "Yeah, guess so." He showed her the observation deck. The wide window revealed endless stars scattered across the dark. The child froze when she saw it. Her eyes widened, reflecting the light of distant suns. Slowly, she walked closer to the glass. "That's space," Ethan said quietly. "Big, huh?" She placed her palm against the window. For a long time she said nothing. Then she spoke, her voice soft but clear. She used a few words in a strange, melodic language. Ethan didn't understand them, but he recognized the tone: wonder and sadness. "You miss home," he said gently. She looked at him, surprised. Then she nodded once. Ethan sat beside her. "I get that." Days passed. The ship continued its route, avoiding major traffic lanes. Officially, the mission was complete. Unofficially, Command was still deciding what to do with the rescued child. Ethan didn't care much about politics. He cared about the way the child flinched at sudden loud noises, the way she slept lightly, waking at the smallest sound, the way she relaxed only when she knew where he was. She began learning human words quickly, faster than most adults did. "Ethan," she said one day, pronouncing it carefully. He nearly dropped the tool he was holding. "Yeah," he replied, trying to sound normal. She pointed at herself and said a word in her language, short, sharp, important. "That's your name?" he asked. She nodded. "It's a good name," Ethan said, smiling. "I wish I could say it right." She studied his mouth as he spoke, then tried again, correcting him slightly. He laughed. "I'll get there, promise." What Ethan did not see were the encrypted messages piling up in the ship's communication buffer, signals sent from distant systems, requests marked urgent, then critical. Alien governments were asking questions. What species was the child? Where had she been found? Was she alone? Human Command grew uneasy. "This is getting strange," a senior officer said during a private briefing. "Too many powerful groups care about one child." Could be political, another suggested. Maybe she's from an important bloodline. Or maybe they're just afraid of us finding something valuable first, someone else said. Ethan was not in that meeting. He was in the ship's common area, showing the child how to draw simple shapes on a tablet. She copied everything perfectly, then began adding symbols of her own, complex ones. "These are letters?" he asked. She nodded. "They look advanced," he said honestly. She paused, then erased them. Ethan frowned slightly. "You don't have to hide things from me." She looked at him carefully, then slowly drew a smaller, simpler shape. "Something safer," he smiled. "Thanks." That night the ship's sensors detected movement at extreme range. Multiple ships, advanced, silent. The bridge crew stiffened. "These aren't pirates," the sensor officer said. "Their drive signatures are elite." "How close?" the captain asked. "Too close for comfort," came the reply. "They did not attack. They did not hail. They simply stayed at the edge of detection, watching." In her sleep the child stirred. She sat up suddenly, eyes wide, breath quick. Ethan was there within seconds. "Hey," he said softly. "What is it?" She looked at him, fear clear on her face now. Real fear. She spoke rapidly in her language, words flowing fast. Ethan didn't understand the details, but he understood the meaning. "They found us," he whispered. She nodded. He placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "You're safe. I won't let anyone hurt you." She stared at him, searching his face as if trying to decide whether to believe him. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead lightly against his chest. It was a gesture of trust. On the bridge, the captain made a decision. "All crew to alert status," he ordered quietly. "No hostile actions unless fired upon." Far away, aboard one of the shadowing alien vessels, a tall figure watched the human ship through layered holograms. "So," the figure said softly, "this is the human." "Yes," another replied. "The one who carried her out of the ruins." "And she has not revealed herself." "No, she chooses silence." The tall figure folded their hands. "Interesting." Back on the human ship, Ethan sat awake through the artificial night cycle, the child asleep beside him. He did not know why the galaxy suddenly felt closer. He did not know why so many unseen eyes were watching. He only knew one thing with certainty: whatever she was. The shadowing vessels stayed just beyond clear sensor range, never close enough to provoke, never far enough to ignore. They moved with calm confidence, like hunters who already knew where their prey was going. On the bridge, the captain stood with hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the main display. Small glowing points marked the unknown ships. "They're matching our speed perfectly," the sensor officer said. "No aggressive energy spikes. No weapons lock." "That's worse," the captain replied. "Means they're patient." Down in the living quarters, Ethan sat on the floor with the alien child beside him. She was not drawing today. She sat very still, her back straight, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Her eyes were closed, but she was not asleep. "You feel them, don't you?" Ethan asked quietly. She opened her eyes and nodded once. "How many?" he asked. She hesitated, then raised her small hand and spread all her fingers. Then she added another finger from the other hand. "6," Ethan guessed. She shook her head gently and tapped the floor twice. "12," he said softly. She nodded. Ethan exhaled slowly. "That's a lot of attention for one kid." At the word kid, she looked at him sharply. For a moment, something old and heavy passed through her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by the calm mask she usually wore. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," Ethan said. "I just want to help." She studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke, carefully choosing each word in broken human language. "They will speak soon." Ethan frowned. "Speak how?" She pointed upward toward the ceiling, toward the bridge. Right on cue, the ship's communication system chimed. "Incoming transmission," the comm officer announced. "Non-hostile signal, multiple encryption layers." The captain straightened. "Put it through, audio only." A moment of static passed, then a voice filled the bridge. It was calm, deep, controlled. Human vessel, the voice said, speaking perfect human trade language. We request dialogue. This matter concerns a passenger under your protection. The captain's jaw tightened. You're speaking to the captain of this ship. State your identity. There was a brief pause. We are representatives of several sovereign systems. We do not wish conflict. We wish return. Return of whom? The captain asked, though he already knew. The child you rescued, the voice replied. Ethan was already moving toward the bridge. The captain glanced back as Ethan entered. Lieutenant, this may get complicated. Ethan stepped forward. With respect, sir, she's not cargo. The voice on the comm responded immediately. We are aware. That is precisely the problem. The child stood in the doorway behind Ethan. No one had noticed her enter. Her presence alone shifted the air in the room. Several officers felt it without understanding why. She's scared, Ethan said firmly. If you want to talk, you do it without threats. The voice paused again, longer this time. Human, it said slowly, you are already defying expectations. Get used to it, Ethan replied. Another voice joined the channel, higher in tone but edged with authority. This delay is dangerous. Her location alone destabilizes treaties. The child stepped forward. Enough, she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried. Every screen on the bridge flickered. Symbols appeared, ancient and complex. Several alien officers on distant ships froze in shock. Ethan turned toward her. Hey, she looked up at him. I must speak now. The voices on the channel fell silent. I am known to you, the child continued, no longer struggling with language. Her words flowed smoothly now, clear and precise. I am the last daughter of the High Throne, heir by blood and law. The bridge went utterly quiet. The captain stared. The officers looked at each other in disbelief. Ethan felt his heart drop into his stomach. The child continued, calm and steady. I survived because this human chose compassion without knowledge. That act binds him to me under the oldest laws. The alien voices returned, urgent now. Your Highness, you must come with us immediately. The galaxy watches, another said. Your safety outweighs all else. She shook her head slowly. You failed to protect me before. I will not be commanded now. Ethan swallowed. You're a princess, she looked at him. For the first time there was sadness in her eyes. Yes, she said. He took a breath. Okay. The simplicity of his response startled everyone. That's it, the captain whispered. Ethan crouched so he was eye level with her. You're still you, that hasn't changed. Her expression softened just a little. She turned back to the comm. I choose temporary sanctuary under human protection. Any attempt to seize me by force will be considered an act of war. Silence followed. Then slowly one of the alien representatives spoke. You would risk interstellar conflict for a human. I would, she replied, because he risked his life for a child he believed was nothing. The words hit harder than any weapon. The alien ships did not advance. Instead, their formation shifted, defensive rather than aggressive. The transmission ended without further demands. On the bridge, the captain finally spoke. Lieutenant Ethan Cole, congratulations. You just became a political problem. Ethan let out a shaky laugh. Wasn't aiming for that, sir. Later, in a quiet compartment away from the crew, Ethan sat across from her. The weight of the truth pressed down on him now that there were no alarms or voices. You should have told me, he said gently. I was afraid, she replied. Not of you. Of what knowing would change, he nodded slowly. Fair, she hesitated. Are you angry? Ethan thought for a moment, then he shook his head. No, just worried. For me, she asked. For you, he said, and for what comes next. She looked down at her hands. They will not stop watching. My existence is balance. If I move, many things move with me. Then we'll be careful, Ethan said. She looked up. You speak as if you are staying. He met her gaze without hesitation. I am. Outside the ship, the alien vessels remained at distance, silent and respectful. Across the galaxy, news spread quickly. A human had rescued a princess, and instead of bowing to power, he had simply stayed by her side. The days after the revelation felt heavier than any battle Ethan had fought before. The ship continued moving, but now every jump, every course correction, felt watched. The alien vessels no longer hid at the edge of sensors. They stayed visible, not threatening but impossible to ignore. They were escorts now. On the bridge, human command channels stayed open almost constantly. Messages arrived faster than officers could answer them. Some were careful and diplomatic. Others were sharp with fear. "This situation is beyond a rescue mission," one senior commander said through the screen. "Lieutenant Cole, you are ordered to remain cooperative." Ethan stood straight. "With respect, sir, we are cooperating, but she stays safe." "That child is no longer just a child," the commander replied. "She is a political center of gravity." Ethan did not raise his voice. "She's both." The channel went silent for a moment. In a private observation room, the princess stood near the wide glass window looking out at the stars. She no longer hid who she was. Her posture had changed. Her silence felt deliberate now, not fearful. Ethan stood a short distance away, giving her space. "They will pressure you," she said without turning. "Your leaders, your allies." "They already are," Ethan replied. "You may lose status, rank, even freedom." Ethan shrugged slightly. "Wouldn't be the first time I annoyed someone important." She turned and studied him. "You do not fully understand the danger." "Then explain it to me," he said simply. She took a breath. "My people were once rulers, not by force alone, but by law older than most civilizations. When my family fell, the galaxy stayed quiet only because I lived. If I die, treaties collapse, old wars restart." Ethan listened carefully. "And if you live, they will try to control where I stand," she said, "who I trust, who speaks for me." "And you don't want that," he said. She shook her head. "I want choice." The word echoed between them. Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we'll protect that." The alarm sounded before either of them could say more. Red lights flashed. The ship shuddered as energy washed over its shields. "Unknown vessels powering weapons," the bridge announced. "Not the escort group. New arrivals." Ethan was already moving. The princess followed him without hesitation. On the main display, 3 ships appeared, sleek, aggressive designs, nothing like the diplomatic escorts. Their energy signatures pulsed with intent. "They're ignoring hails," the comm officer said. "Weapons charging." The escort vessels reacted instantly, shifting position, placing themselves between the attackers and the human ship. Space lit up. Energy beams clashed, tearing bright scars across the darkness. One escort ship took a direct hit, its shields flaring. "They're trying to force a capture," the captain said grimly. "They don't care about treaties." Ethan clenched his fists. "Can we jump?" "Not safely," the navigator replied. "We're locked." The princess stepped forward. "They are a rogue faction. They believe I must be removed to free the galaxy from old laws." Ethan looked at her sharply. "Removed how?" She met his eyes. "Death." Before he could respond, the ship shook violently. A warning tone screamed. "Boarding craft detected," someone shouted. Ethan's training kicked in instantly. "I'll handle it." "No," the captain said. "You stay with her." Ethan hesitated for half a second. Then he nodded. "Understood." The boarding impact came hard. Metal screamed. Somewhere in the ship, explosions echoed. Ethan guided the princess into a reinforced compartment. "Stay behind me," he said. She did not argue. The door sealed just as heavy footsteps approached from the corridor. Blaster fire tore into the wall, melting metal. Ethan raised his rifle, steady and calm. The door burst open. Tall alien figures rushed in, armored and fast. Ethan fired, precise and controlled. One fell, then another. A third raised a weapon toward the princess. Ethan moved without thinking, stepping directly into the line of fire. The blast struck his armor and threw him back. Pain exploded through his side. "Ethan!" the princess cried. He pushed himself up, teeth clenched. "I'm fine." He was, but he stood anyway. The remaining attackers hesitated. Behind Ethan, the princess straightened. "Stop," she said. Her voice carried something more than sound. The attackers froze mid-motion, their weapons lowering involuntarily. "You violate ancient law," she continued, her tone cold and clear. "You act without claim, without right." One of the attackers snarled. "Your time is over. You are a relic." She stepped forward, placing herself beside Ethan. "Then you will fall with the past you fear," she replied. The attackers retreated, not in fear but in realization. They had failed. Moments later, escort ships destroyed the boarding craft. The threat ended as suddenly as it had begun. Silence returned. Ethan swayed. The princess caught him before he fell. Medical teams rushed in seconds later, but Ethan barely noticed. His vision blurred as he felt small hands gripping him tightly. "Stay," she whispered, "please." "I'm not going anywhere," he muttered. In the medical bay, Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness. Pain came and went like waves. Through it all, he sensed her presence, sitting quietly nearby. When he finally woke fully, she was still there. "You should be resting," he said weakly. "So should you," she replied. He smiled faintly. "Fair." She looked down at him, her expression serious. "You took a strike meant for me. Part of the job," he said. "That is not true," she said softly. "You chose." He met her gaze. "Yes, I did." Outside the medical bay, decisions were being made that would shape history. Human Command issued firm statements. The escort fleets strengthened their formation. Word spread fast. A human had shielded a princess with his own body. That mattered. Later, as Ethan recovered, the princess stood before a live Galactic Council feed. Her image filled countless screens across star systems. "I remain under human protection by my will," she said. "Any further attempts to claim me by force will be met with unified response." Murmurs spread across the council chambers. "This alliance is unusual," one delegate said. She inclined her head slightly. "So is loyalty without demand." When the transmission ended, she returned to Ethan's side. "They will hesitate now," she said. "You changed the balance." Ethan exhaled slowly. "Glad I could help." She hesitated, then placed her hand gently over his, just as she had done the first day. "You did more than help," she said. "You reminded the galaxy what protection truly means." Outside the ship, the stars burned quietly. And for the first time since her world had fallen, the princess felt something close to peace. The galaxy did not wait for them to act. Word of the princess under human protection spread faster than light could carry it. Entire systems paused, ambassadors whispered, and fleets adjusted their courses. What had been a quiet human ship was now a symbol, a challenge to centuries of expectation. On board, Ethan walked through the corridors slowly, his rifle slung across his back. He had spent days recovering from the blast, but the small cuts and bruises did little to slow him down. The princess walked beside him, her small hand brushing against his sleeve in her quiet way of signaling she was near. It had become their unspoken rhythm. She had insisted on staying close to him, despite protests from some of the officers. "I am capable," she told them repeatedly. "But he saved me. My choice is his to respect." Ethan smiled faintly, though he said nothing. He understood the weight of her words. Out in the galaxy, countless eyes watched, waiting for a human to make a mistake. But she trusted him, and that trust was more important than any command order. The human crew began to notice subtle changes in the princess. She no longer moved like a frightened child. Her posture was straight, her eyes sharp, her gaze deliberate. She studied their maps, questioned their tactics, and even suggested alternate routes to avoid rogue fleets. The crew was both wary and impressed. Here was a being born into power, yet she willingly followed a human's lead. Ethan entered the bridge with her close behind. The captain greeted him with a nod. "Situation reports are in. We have requests from 6 sovereign systems to meet with you immediately. They wish to negotiate or intimidate." Ethan looked at the princess. "Are you ready?" She nodded. "I will speak my choice. Let them understand why they cannot control me." The human ship slowed as it approached a neutral meeting zone in unclaimed space. Alien ships surrounded them, massive and imposing, yet there was no aggression yet. The princess stepped forward onto the observation deck, her small form framed against the endless stars. She raised her head and spoke clearly, her voice carrying confidence and authority. "I am the last heir of the high throne," she began. "By blood and law, I hold the right to choose my path. I have survived countless threats. I have been offered protection by many, yet I chose a human, not for strength alone, but for courage, for loyalty, for truth. My protector risked his life without knowledge of my status. That choice binds him to me under the oldest laws of our people. Any who harm him or me will be considered enemies of the crown." The assembly of alien leaders fell silent. A murmur ran through the channels as their advisors whispered urgently. Some faces reflected shock, others fear. None had expected this declaration. Ethan stood behind her, silent but firm. His hand hovered near hers, ready if needed but not encroaching. This was her moment. One of the alien delegates finally spoke. "You place a human above centuries of tradition." "Yes," the princess said simply, "because loyalty and courage cannot be commanded. They are chosen, and he chose rightly." Another delegate hesitated, then added, "Then you are safe under his protection." "I am," she replied, "and I remain human's choice." The aliens conferred briefly, then one nodded slowly. "So it shall be. Human loyalty has been proven. Let it stand as law until proven otherwise." Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the moment. Ships, communications networks, even remote colonies felt the ripple of her words. Humanity had earned respect, not through weapons, not through dominance, but through a simple act of protection and courage. After the council ended, the princess turned to Ethan. Her expression was softer now, but still filled with the quiet authority of her title. "You did not save me to change history. You saved me because it was right, and that is why everything changed." Ethan shook his head, smiling faintly. "I didn't think about history, I just didn't want you hurt." She studied him for a long moment. "And yet, you changed it all." They walked together to the small recreation area where the crew had gathered. For the first time, there was laughter, not tension. The princess moved among the humans easily, yet always close to Ethan. She asked questions, learned jokes, and even mimicked some human expressions, drawing quiet chuckles from the crew. Ethan watched, amazed at how quickly she adapted, yet still retained the quiet dignity of royalty. She was learning, observing, absorbing everything, but she never lost the core of who she was. At night, the two of them sat in a quiet corner, looking out at the endless stars. Ethan had removed his armor entirely now, and the princess's small hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "You're still just Ethan to me," she said quietly. "Not a rank, not a soldier, not a symbol, just the one who saved me." "And that's enough?" he asked, a faint grin touching his lips. "It is everything," she replied. The galaxy outside moved on. Systems prepared for the ripple effects of her declaration. Fleets adjusted, political leaders revised treaties. Wars that could have flared simmered quietly because one child had chosen a human, and one human had chosen to protect a child without knowing her status. For Ethan, the moment was simple. He had a responsibility, yes. He had dangers to face, yes. But right now, he had a small, fragile life in his care, and that was all that mattered. Days turned into weeks. The princess began training with the human crew, not just in combat but in leadership and negotiation. She observed how humans worked together, how they treated loyalty as a bond rather than a law, how decisions were made with trust instead of fear. Ethan guided her when needed, but mostly he let her observe, let her learn. Other alien envoys arrived occasionally, carefully, respectfully, to negotiate or observe. They no longer spoke to Ethan as though he were an obstacle. They treated him as a guardian whose decisions could not be ignored. One evening, as the stars gleamed outside, the princess turned to him. "Will you continue with me when I return to my people?" Ethan looked at her, considering. I'll go anywhere you need me." Her lips curved slightly, a small, genuine smile. "Then you will be my guardian, my advisor, my protector." "I'll try to live up to that," he said, a quiet pride in his voice. "You already have," she replied simply. When the ship finally approached the core systems of her people, a formal ceremony awaited. The princess walked at Ethan's side as dignitaries and observers bowed, in recognition of her authority. Yet her gaze remained on him as they approached the ceremonial hall. For all their grandeur and tradition, she had chosen to honor the human who had chosen compassion above all else. Inside the grand hall, the princess took her place on the raised dais, a throne of ancient design behind her. The assembly remained silent, waiting for her word. She raised her hand slightly. "This human has saved me," she said clearly. "He did not know who I was. He did not ask for reward or rank. He acted rightly. For this, he stands beside me. Not as a servant, not as a soldier, but as one who has my trust, my respect, and my recognition." Gasps filled the chamber. Some delegates whispered in awe. Some older royals shook their heads in disbelief. Ethan stayed behind her, silent. He did not want recognition. He did not seek it, but he could not hide the quiet pride that warmed him. The princess smiled at him. "Together, we ensure that the galaxy remembers what loyalty, courage, and choice mean." The words echoed far beyond the hall. Across the stars, humans were spoken of differently now. They were not just warriors or explorers. They were protectors, capable of loyalty and courage that no law or fleet could compel. Ethan understood now that the galaxy would never forget this moment. Not because of royal blood or ancient law, but because a human had saved a child. And that child had chosen him. As they walked down the dais together, the princess paused, glancing at the crowd. "The galaxy may try to sway me, but I am free. I choose humanity because humanity chose me." Ethan took her hand gently. "And I choose to stay with you whatever comes next." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, and for the first time the princess felt the galaxy's weight lift. She had survived. She had chosen. She had trusted. And humanity had proven its worth, not through weapons, not through power, but through heart. The galaxy waited. But it would wait a little longer because some choices were stronger than law, stronger than fleets, and stronger than fear. Ethan looked at her, the small alien princess who had changed everything. She looked back, her eyes bright and steady. "Let's go home," he said. She nodded. "Home together." And for once the stars did not feel so distant.